Hello everyone, welcome back. I am back with another video for my Valentine series using non-traditional colors. Just fun and cute, and again, this could be for any time of the year. And I'm using a stamp set that I have so many requests for me to use. I bought this months ago and then it's literally been sitting beside my desk, and with Valentine's and everything, I was like, this is perfect. So this is the So Pun Friends stamp set. There's another one that goes with it because Simon released two of them. They had So Pun Friends and I Choose You because they had that limited edition kit months ago, etc. So all of this is still available. I'll have links to it. But I wanted to use that as my main focus. And then I also wanted to use the new Windows to My Heart wafer dies. So I decided to use that with some Doodlebug pattern paper. I know, shock. I didn't use the So Pun pattern papers though, because they didn't have any in that particular pack that I wanted to use. So I actually combined the dot stripe papers with the floral graph papers, and I chose a blue and a white from that. And I die cut that heart, Windows to My Heart wafer die from the blue. And then for my little main images, these are from the So Pun Friends set, and I am stamping them onto some Neenah Classic Crest 80-pound cardstock using my stamp platform, so I can stamp these a couple times with Simon's Intense Black ink, so I get a really good crisp image. And I stamped the little sloth image and then the little speech bubble, and then I centered my little phrase there in that speech bubble, and I'm going to stamp that with the Intense Black ink as well. And that's why this it applies to my Valentine's series, but again, it's not specifically like Happy Valentine's Day. It just says I love you slow much, which I thought was adorable. So after I had those stamped, I'm going to color these in really easily with Copic markers, not doing anything too fancy. I used warm grays for the sloth, just because to me sloths are always more like a gray than a brown, but I guess you could do either or. But I like the warm grays for them. So I started with my darkest, worked my way to the lightest. And then for the branch and the leaves, I only used 2 markers because they're smaller images and don't need a whole ton of like shading and definition. So colored those in. I'd added pink to the little sloth cheeks. And then I used a little bit of BG 000 on the speech bubble just to give it that little extra something. And then I took my Jelly Roll 10, like the largest Jelly Roll pen, and added little highlights and some little dots and whatnot for texture, just wherever I thought they would look decent. I'm still getting requests to do a separate video. I can't promise that I will, because it's hard to explain a thought process when it really isn't one. I know people, I get it. I understand, because I'll watch people sometimes and it's like, how would you think to do such and such? How would you think to put that color together or whatever? Like, I get it, but it's just something that it's hard to explain when there really isn't a thought process, if that makes sense. But I will try. So after I let the white gel pen dry for a few minutes, I used the coordinating wafer dies to cut them out. And then I wanted to add another sentiment to the front with the banner stamp that's in the set. So I have some leaf green cardstock here, and I used my anti-static powder tool. And I stamped the outline banner image first with clear embossing ink. And then I stamped the sentiment that says, "Don't hurry, be happy." And I'm going to ink that up with the clear embossing ink at the same time. So I've got the outline of the banner and the sentiment stamped, and then I can coat those with my detail white embossing powder and then melt that with my heat tool. So once I have this melted, after it was done, I was looking at it and I was like, even though it's supposed to be a curved banner, I was like, it looks kind of flat. What can I do to kind of zhuzh it up a bit? And I used a Copic marker and very carefully used just the tip of the marker on the back parts of the banner, making sure not to touch the embossing powder. Because 1, I don't want to get the color on the heat embossing. And 2, embossing powder does not take nicely to Copic markers. The alcohol ink kind of reacts with the embossing powder and you can wreck your marker nibs. A tiny little space like this isn't really going to do anything, but I'd rather be safe than sorry when I've invested a fortune into my Copic markers. So it's up to the person. Some people have no problems with it. I personally don't want to mess around with anything that might potentially wreck my markers. So I colored those little spots, die cut it with a coordinating die, and then to adhere the little blue die cut background, I used my little Darice foam strips just to pop it up for that little extra bit of dimension. And then I'm going to adhere all my other little elements with Simon's Craft Tacky Glue. So just kind of creating my scene. And that's why I chose the blue and the white papers, because in my head I was thinking like, oh, it almost looks like clouds. You know, he's on his little branch kind of hanging there, and the little hearts could technically be almost like clouds. So that was the thought process. And then it turned into this whole very non-traditional, like it has hearts, but there's no Valentine mentioned, and there's no pink, no red. So just fun. So I adhered the little sloth and the banner. And then to adhere the speech bubble, I just added more of those little Darice foam strips kind of behind where the speech bubble are going to go, just to give it that extra little bit of support, since it was just basically going to be hanging there. So put those into place because they'll be hidden by that little speech bubble. Plus it just gave me something to adhere that to. And then from my stash, I also pulled some little Doodlebug shape sprinkles in tiny hearts and rainbow hearts, because there happened to be some green ones, which was just perfect to kind of tie it all together. So I adhered a couple green ones, added a little white one, and then to finish the inside of the card, I decided not to add any sentiments, because like I said, this could technically be almost like an any occasion sort of card. So I wanted to stamp the little sloth again. This time I just used some gray ink just to kind of tie it all together. And then I have all those die cut hearts left over from die cutting the panel for the front. So I decided to adhere a couple of them to the inside of the card, and then the remaining ones I'm just going to stick in the packaging. Things like that, especially if they're like basic shapes like hearts, etc., I'll just stick in the packaging with that wafer die. So the next time I go to use it, it's like, oh, I've got these die cut hearts or stars or whatever die it is to use on future projects. So adhered those hearts, trimmed off the excess with my scissors, and then I'm going to adhere the card front to the card base using the craft tacky glue. Very glad I did that, because I didn't center it at all when I first put it down, and I moved quick enough to pull it off before it had a chance to start drying, so nothing tore, and then got it lined up properly this time and got it adhered into place, and that finished off the card. So as always, there'll be a link below the video to my blog post. I'll have a supply list with links to everything I use, so you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting on my videos. I really appreciate it. I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye!